new day. It is. It's May something.
It's Friday.
And to start off this new day, let's just go around the room and introduce ourselves. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
This is Andrew.
And this is the podcast, of course. It's not late, you're just tired. We haven't done that in a while, and I figured people might wonder who we are if they don't know us by now. Because we get some stuff like people from Indonesia click on it, and I'm like, there's no way they know me.
Do they know English?
I hope so. Well, I'm going for the clicks, Andrew. I don't really care if they know English.
It's all about the clicks.
It's all about the clicks. We're click whores at this point. Not click prostitutes because we don't make money. Anyways, Godzilla. I sort of anticipated this. You know, I had a good trailer. Very
the trailer
artistic.
kicked ass. Well, the thing is, the trailer is actually just a scene from the movie.
It was a really cool scene until I've seen that trailer multiple times. And so
that's our problem.
When it
because
showed
we
up
go to
in-
every single movie.
Not just that. Everywhere on, like, YouTube. Like, they would show that trailer everywhere. So, like, okay, cool scene. It's very memorable. But then when you see in the movie, you're just like,
Yeah, it's lost some potency, certainly. But I think for, like, in the future, like, Progeny going to look at the movie and not remember the marketing campaign. Right. So it's going to be more effective. If anyone sees this in 10 years.
Well, and I would say this, okay, it had kind of a cool art direction, but too bad I had to deal with an hour of human drama bullshit that doesn't mean anything.
That's so weird, isn't it? Because if you think back, the first few bullshit Godzilla movies after the very first one, which was a disaster flick, which is kind of what this is. But the other movies are really Godzilla, not talking really much, but interacting with other monsters that look terrible. And it's bizarre. But you've got to have some kind of human relatability, especially in 2014. So that's why all the Transformers flicks have characters that are human that you don't give a shit about.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, they can't do anything very effective without being hard to believe. They're so small.
Right.
And that's the point that the movie accentuates over and over and over and over, is how small people are.
Well, it's not only are they so small, but they're also so boring.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to get into this, so apparently Bryan Cranston's in the movie. He's in for a little bit. Not going to say what his total involvement is.
He's not in it very long, let's just say that.
Yeah, and so apparently he worked at like a nuclear facility in the late 90s. Huge fallout. And let's just go into this. He monitors like earthquakes. Mm-hmm. I think that's his involvement. Mm-hmm. And they see this huge, like, pulse or something coming from the ocean. They're like, oh no, something's scary. And you're like, I think I know what it is. And we don't really know what it is, but we think.
Yeah. You have this cataclysmic event.
So, like, okay, nuclear reactors are falling apart.
Right.
And apparently he thought it'd be a great idea. Hey, let's send the love of my life down there with 4 other people that we don't know the names of. And go down there and see what's going on. It's like, okay, what are they doing? Doesn't matter. They're going to see what's going on. So shit went down. Radiation currently is everywhere. Mm-hmm. That's what realistically it would be. But here was like
a radiation.
Day after tomorrow.
Radiation
is chasing the characters down a fucking hallway.
Basically, they should have had like Radiation Man, like a guy dressed in a suit. I'm coming to get you, and they're like, that's radiation.
And what's problem with that was, okay, if you're gonna take it seriously, if you're gonna be like, hey, this is science, this is what would happen, and then you tell me that, and then you go against what's actually true. I think someone with a basic background can say, yeah, radiation doesn't just, like, float somewhere. Like, it has radiate in the name.
It does just float somewhere, though. It does. Correct, what it doesn't do is barrel towards you at breakneck speed.
Yeah, and
dust cloud.
Also somehow, I loved that they kept showing back going like, oh no, look, it's coming quickly. And then, like, somehow these scientists, they're not track stars, are able to outrun this for so long. And it wasn't for, like, a fucking pipe to hit one of them, like, oh, well, we're fucked. Yeah. Let's just stay. Whatever.
That's the scene.
So that's a fallout. Now we go 14 years ahead, and we see Aaron Taylor Johnson. That's his name, right?
Yeah, what's his name in the movie? Oh yeah, Ford Prefect.
Brody.
Oh, Ford Brody.
Oh, you actually remember that?
I
Okay.
do.
Because they share a surname with the guy from Jaws, actually.
Mhm.
Brody from Jaws.
He's so just quiet and mumbles everything, and he keeps a complete straight face the entire time in this movie, that he doesn't emote anything. And I feel like there's a problem there, but there's so many other problems in this movie that I'll leave that to the side.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes back, you assume Iraq, something. He's like, oh, I've been gone for 14 months. Okay, so he comes back to his wife, played by Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah, she's great.
Except she's barely used in this.
Yeah, she isn't much.
She's just a crying, oh, where's my husband character. You know, she's just a woman in distress.
Yeah, I think the whole cast is pretty underused in this movie. Now that you mention it, because they're great actors.
Well, underused. Aaron Taylor Johnson is used throughout this, but he's not. He has nothing to do. It's like, oh, what do I need to do next? I don't be scared.
Okay, underutilized then. They don't give me anything to work with. It's like, hey, look in all at Godzilla's majesty.
Yeah, like these characters, other than Bryan Cranston. Okay, so Aaron Taylor Johnson comes back to Elizabeth Olsen. Hey, I've been gone for 14 months. That night, it's like, hey, your dad just got arrested. Okay, I'll have to deal with that. Somehow he gets to Japan real quickly, and he finds his dad is sort of like crazy, trying to research all this shit that happened in the fallout.
Mm-hmm.
And what was that for?
Well, she hadn't said anything for a while, so I thought I'd poke her.
Oh. So what happened next, Molly?
They just happened to go to Japan the night of this emergence.
They were already in Japan.
No, but they get to Japan same day
Of what?
Oh yeah, I mean they witness the emergence
of
of
the Muto.
Muto.
Yeah, not Godzilla.
Where-
Not Godzilla.
Where's Godzilla at this point? Oh yeah, I haven't seen him.
You haven't. No.
You don't see him
You
for
don't
the first
see Godzilla
hour.
until I would say 45 minutes, but it could be an hour.
So really the basic thing in this movie is you have these Mutos that one's conveniently a female, one's conveniently a male. They're fucking, and they're gonna make more Mutos. So, like most of the time, Godzilla doesn't like it when someone's stepping on his territory. So he comes in
What is his territory again?
everything.
Planet Earth.
And he comes in to kick their ass.
Yeah, basically. That's the plot of the movie.
Yeah, but biggest problems with this, it takes itself seriously, and it tries to have this, like, hey, this is the real science behind this. Like, oh man, we tried to blow up Godzilla once, and like nothing happened to that. No, he just completely like scoffed, just like scratched it off. It's like, you didn't just slap him, you dropped a nuke on him. Like,
yeah.
doesn't have burns on his back or something? No, he's fine. Okay. And then they kept saying, hey, he's an alpha predator.
Mm-hmm.
Molly,
Yes.
you're an English major. What does predator mean?
One that hunts
For
prey,
what does the predator do to the prey?
rips it to shreds and eats it.
Right. So Godzilla being the alpha predator means he's just an ass kicker. He doesn't kill them. I mean, he kills them, but he doesn't, oh, I'm gonna eat them. He's not like, oh, I'll stir fry this later. No, he just walks away.
Into the ocean, yeah. Spoilers, that's how the movie ends.
Oh, God forbid, Godzilla doesn't die.
Well, yeah, Godzilla wins, Godzilla goes back to the ocean. That's what always happens. And Alex, I think your problems with it are kind of like my problems with Superman. They're just inherent, It's like, oh, I have a problem with the premise. That's the premise. That's a Godzilla movie.
But here's the thing, though. Last summer, we saw a movie called Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Sort of similar.
Uh-huh.
Monsters, giant-ass monsters.
Yeah.
Very cartoony. The action is very stylized. They didn't try to hey, here's the real science bot of it all. No, there's a little bit to explain just a few things, but they're not hey, look at this real realism. What if Godzilla really existed on this Earth?
Well,
I don't think you should do that.
So if you take, alright, you got this meeting, right, the studio executives, and they're like, oh, let's make a Godzilla movie. I haven't made one of those in a while, and the last one was kind of a flop, right? But that was 15 years ago.
Not just a flop,
we can do
people
better.
hate it.
That thing's a piece of shit. In fact, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. It's terrible. Alright, just let that be bygone. So, you're gonna make a Godzilla movie. how well can you do a Godzilla movie? Like, how good can it be? It can't be high art. There is no way it's going to win an Oscar. So let's take it and look at it in a certain way. Let's try to make it like a disaster flick.
Right.
Okay, so that's what they did. Because that was the first. That's what the first one did, except it was an allegory for Hiroshima, which is kind of what they try here in parts, and that kind of falls flat. But if you want to make Godzilla movies serious, at the same time, you have to market it and release it in the middle of summer, or at the beginning of summer, so it's even worse. It has to compete, so you got to make it at the same time entertaining and a big monster fight like people want to see. People don't want to see Godzilla just like tear up his town, like see everyone cry, like, oh my god, Godzilla! It's just like what happened in Hiroshima. You know, people, that's not going to sell.
But I mean, if you saw it as sort of a horror flick,
and in parts, that's what it is. But you're right, it does have these tonal problems where it goes to being like a giant monster mash back to being like a human drama that doesn't really
not
work.
just that, there's a procedural going on. It's like the Bourne movies or Independence Day, where it's like you're seeing these boardrooms where everyone's like, "Yeah, we're fucked." Like, what do we do?
Scramble!
What do we need to do next?
What's the plan?
And like, okay, Independence Day is a goofy ass movie, but the one thing it does get right is that like they never try to justify like, "Hey, all of our decisions are correct." They constantly say like, "We're fucked. These aliens are gonna wipe us out." And eventually they come up with, "Oh, let's make a virus." That doesn't make any sense. That's where you let it go. This one constantly has these humans reevaluating, making plans like, "Okay, we're gonna like, okay, here's the plan. Let's get them all going to the same city." Wait, why? That'd make, well, no, like, because somehow they'll fight each other off. And also, there's this lone Japanese guy in this who's the scientist.
Well, yeah, that's his plan.
Yeah, he keeps telling them, like, let them fight.
Yeah.
Why?
Because the crazy Japanese guy wants to see some giant monsters fight.
Yeah, it's like,
that's basically his only
and, like,
reasoning.
Yeah, I just don't understand
Well,
that.
we can understand that.
He never had any justification for it. Because, like, everyone else, again, taking the super serious, like, there's lives at stake. Okay.
No. He did have justification. His justification was that his quote about the arrogance of man thinking that they have control, and he thought that Godzilla and the Mutos fighting would restore the balance, and the Mutos emerging.
Force.
But is there not just a fear in that, correct? Like, Godzilla isn't necessarily a character in this, he's just a force that they have to deal with, right? It's like having to deal with a giant storm.
Right, and he wanted to harness that force to wipe out the Mutos.
How about this? You don't see at the end of Twister where they go like, oh man, the Twister saved the day, hero! We saw at the end of this one, they show the news, and it's like, Godzilla? Hero or villain?
Well,
really? He killed thousands of people
that was
just
my
trying
problem.
to get on the island. Now, I know that older Godzilla movies have this, like, oh, he's sort of the guardian. It's like, hey, you're stepping on my territory. You don't fuck with Tokyo. Only I fuck with Tokyo.
Basically, yeah. And even Tokyo's, like, the rest of Tokyo are like, only he fucks with us.
Yeah, he killed my sister last week.
There's even a plot line on one of them where, like, this guy, his whole thing in life, he wants to be eaten by Godzilla. And he'll be like, hey, Godzilla, over here! And he, like, comes in, like, at the end of the movie, finally eats him. He's like, yeah! Those were goofy movies, so.
I don't... Again, here's another part. They try to maybe, like, I don't want to say humanize, but characterize Godzilla. There's a part where, like, he looks at a human, and it's like, oh, it's like Godzilla has a soul in him or something. But I have a problem with this. Again, aren't the humans supposed to be sort of like ants? Insignificant, right?
Yeah.
That's what that was my problem.
How about... Yeah, you got this problem?
Shut up.
I thought the same thing!
I really did. No, that's the thing, is these giant, enormous monsters are battling it out on Earth, right? And these puny little humans, shooting rockets, whatever, it's like a raindrop on these animals'
Yeah, that
lives.
never ever works. I don't know why they try anymore.
It never works. But this movie attempted to make it seem, on the one hand, they had that humans don't matter, humans are arrogant, there's a larger control, there's a larger balance, but on the other hand, there were scenes where these humans had influence, and I didn't
I didn't like that either. I didn't like how the main character was able to single-handedly destroy the whole...
It turns out he's
spoilers.
the only fucker that's able to disable bombs on this Earth.
He's super
and
important.
they don't even know about him. He just shows up and goes like, hey, I can do that for you. And they're like, Yeah, we needed somebody like that. Man,
Our plan was really fun.
I
He's
love it when a
so
plan comes
conveniently
together.
every single place he's needed, which was irritating. You know, he's suddenly in Japan, and then he's suddenly in San Francisco, then he's suddenly on this train with all these giant
would you rather have
warheads.
like a Roland Emmerich movie where it's like 1,000 characters and you don't get to know any of them because there's 1,000 of them?
But this character had nothing to him.
You're right. It focused on this guy who's really boring, and you had better actors in the movie, like the freaking Kin, what's his name?
Watanabe?
Watanabe.
I don't know how to say it.
He is a good actor.
He's a great actor.
Yeah, he is a great actor, and he didn't do jack
And
shit.
Sally Hawkins is a great actress,
and she
too.
didn't do jack shit, except like stare around like, oh wow, isn't this great? Isn't this great? We're in a movie together.
And she just literally repeats what
basically,
the
yeah.
Japanese guy.
Yeah.
And another thing, the Japanese guy, bad direction here. He always looks confused. I feel like that's what the director said. Like, oh, look shocked. Like everything. It's
At
like,
everything.
oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Like I told you earlier, like he goes to the fucking McDonald's drive-thru. Like, would you like 2 apple pies for $1? Whoa, $2. Whoa, it's like really. Like he shouldn't look shocked at everything,
Yeah,
but they
most-
have him do that the entire time in the movie. But then again, none of the actors matter in this, except apparently the one guy, Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's so influential. They could have just went for this, and people would have been okay. Why can't we just really just watch Godzilla? And sometimes you might see humans, but you don't really grasp, like, who they are. There's no characterization to them.
Because that's not relatable. People wouldn't connect with that.
But I think if you have a bunch of badass fighting with Godzilla, I think people would be like, movie would be shorter.
Movie wouldn't have much
fair
plot.
enough. And this one did.
It had a story. It's like a mounting disaster.
Well, I think you kind of need the human interaction because you see these monsters destroying cities, buildings, people's entire lives, and to be removed from it, to just have that fighting, it's like, oh yeah, they just destroyed Tokyo. But to see the people on the buses and the trains and,
But
and the subways.
but here's the thing: you could have had that with having small vignettes where you get to know someone quickly and then see whatever happens.
Yeah.
You don't have to somehow. This guy is involved with every fucking fight that happens.
Okay, so you're right.
It's convenient.
You're right. They could have taken a bigger risk and made a better movie, but that's always the case with these Hollywood things, right?
Right.
So-
But here's the thing: they don't even really embrace showing like the Godzilla fighting. Twice, I don't know if you saw me. I was shaking with fury, where it's like, all right, we saw Godzilla. Cut to black.
Yeah, they always cut away.
Or like, there's a part where it's like, oh, you're seeing Godzilla's about to kick that Muto's ass. I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's do this. It's like Pacific Rim again. Come on. And slowly close. And I get to
Basically, yeah.
see it on a stupid news thing later.
A couple.
just like,
I was okay with that. Whatever. You know, it's if you
The movie's called Godzilla, right?
yeah
Not boring ass people.
What's
on
weird
Earth.
that it's Godzilla, but it's mostly about Godzilla's enemy here. It's about the Muto. You know, it's like that's what is most heavily explained and focused on the whole movie. It's like, oh, these are the problem. Let's talk about the Mutos, and they're not that interesting. They're just like bugs.
No, and they're showed more than Godzilla.
A lot
Very
more, yeah.
large
Well,
and
I'll,
strong.
you know, honestly, I was okay with that. I thought it was a little weird how this movie comes out and they got all the post trailers. They have like the Japanese character for Godzilla, and they are really emphasizing, hey, this is Toho, right? It was the original production company. We're going to do it right this time. And I thought it was going to be in Japan, but the movie didn't really accentuate the Japanese bit. Like the first scene's in Japan, but I mean it's with American actors,
Yeah.
which is so weird because if you market it as like, oh hey, it's actual Japanese legitimate Godzilla, and Godzilla was a Japanese Godzilla, but they didn't really go with the Japanese.
Well, apparently this had a lot of U.S. influence.
Yeah, they got the
but
fucking
US
Navy in
impact
it the whole
because,
time.
well, they talk about like, oh, we tried to kill Godzilla. That was the whole U.S. government doing it,
Yeah,
not Japan.
right. Well, Japan was kind of crippled at that point. It takes me back to the one another Godzilla movie where these Japanese soldiers are camped out in this island. It might be Iwo Jima even. I don't think it was Iwo Jima. And these American assholes are coming to get them, right? And they're in their caves, and Godzilla comes and kills all the Americans. And they come out, thank you, Godzilla! And he's like, he waves and goes back to the ocean. And Kachi did you a solid, guys. Oh well.
Okay, I'll say a few good things about this. The very little bit you did see of Godzilla fighting the Mutos was pretty badass.
Yeah.
And then I would say even the paratrooper scene, even though we saw that in the trailer, that does look cool. And that had such a cool art direction to it that I felt like if you really embrace, I don't want to say like Terrence Malick did, but if you really embrace that, like showing all these cool scenes, might have upped the budget. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like you could have taken more out of that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for this one, I'll go ahead and say it. I would say wait to rent this because this is something that you could easily don't pay attention for the first hour and then watch the last bits of the Honolulu scenes and the San Francisco scenes, and you didn't miss much. Really, the end had nothing really much to do with what happened in the beginning when it comes to the characters.
I think that they did a good enough job showing the effect of all the destruction and the scope of it. And the problem is, when you talk about like some movies, that has been a fucking trope for a while, man. I mean, like G.I. Joe 2 with with The Rock, has London like fall into the sea, and that's a fucking G.I. Joe movie. Think about like all these other summer movies have mass destruction on a huge scale. So we're kind of numb to that now. Mm-hmm. This movie did that really well. With the tsunami scene, that was effective. You know, I might have forgotten about that shit because, you know, like I said, we are so used to it. But I thought it did a really good job, and it didn't dismiss it out of hand. Like this human suffering didn't just say like, oh, you know, people are dying. You know, but hey, it's Godzilla.
You know, actually, one thing I'll say this too. There was a motif about nature in this, and how they showed that was twice you saw a dog observing what was going on. I thought that was kind of cool. Because that did go with the whole, like, nature.
And it takes time out to, like, kind of pause and look at the scene, or, like, it's like that scene with the trees, and it just, like, kind of lingers. Mm-hmm. I like how they did that. Like I said, the art direction was great. Cinematography is really good. With Transcendence, we talked about, like, there were a couple scenes where I was like, wow, what a great image. And I think there were a couple of those in this movie.
But I think the same thing with Transcendence. What do those images mean?
That's an empty movie. But that's an empty, horrible movie.
Oh yeah.
And this isn't. I mean, it's got something to go see. Like, even if that's not your bag, that's just like icing on the meh cake. You know, it's there. I would say see it, because if you go to see it and you see it on like your tiny little TV or your computer or something, you're gonna miss a lot of the details. I think because it's a pretty grand scope here. It's a pretty big canvas.
Right. I don't know. It's 2 hours long, and I feel like it's
2 hours. Most movies are 2.5 now.
I understand that, but it felt like the first hour.
You're right. It did feel like 2.5 hours.
The first half just felt a bit of a chore. It's like, okay, like, hey, where's Godzilla? Where's these other monsters? Like, it would have helped, I think, if that middle battle was a little longer.
You're right. If there's like some director's cut out there where they actually
because that sort of cut out. Because, you know, I was wondering, like, okay, wait, is this supposed to be a disaster flick? Are they kind of going for a horror thing? Because if you think about what's the Cloverfield, you don't see the monster till the very end.
Yeah.
And then you see a bunch of other like fucked up shit that happens on the way. You know, people's heads exploding. It's like, okay, you know, that's a true horror flick when it comes to a monster movie. Well, this one, it's like, all right, you showed us Godzilla. From here, we should see him all the time. I mean, I know that's a budget thing. You can't go back to, oh no, he's like creepy in the dark. Are you kidding me? He's like 10 stories tall.
Yeah, it's funny how they conceal. People miss it a lot.
Yeah, there's like multiple times where like Godzilla comes out of nowhere. It's like, are you kidding me? It should be like, why is the ground shaking?
Oh, he's 10 miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should see that from afar. Another thing was showing that, like, a science thing. Why did the Mutos just have this asshole deal where they just wanted to destroy cities?
Yeah, why?
I don't think they were destroying... Well, no, the food sources, that's what drew them to certain areas, because they needed the radiation. But one scene, they were destroying all these buildings.
They destroyed Vegas.
They did. On the way to somewhere
Vegas.
On the way to get more radiation.
Yeah, they just like walk straight down the strip.
But there is
it's not very big.
There is a little bit of reason. One, they crush all those buildings to create a nest.
Oh, so it was trying to make a nest then.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. Because I was trying to explain that to my dad last night, and he's like, so wait, why didn't it just try to, like, run away? Why did it want to just, like, yep, let's go to Vegas and destroy it?
Yeah, like, these fights never happen in the flyover zone. There's not like a giant field where they're just, like, fighting. It's always got buildings to throw at each other, so you just, like, scoop one up and chuck it. I don't know. They like to fight in big cities because it makes the stakes bigger.
Yeah. What would you give this, Molly? I think you were the most disappointed
what?
Just pissed off. You were like,
were visibly upset, actually.
I wasn't.
I think at one point you were sleeping on my shoulder.
I was just a little. It became a little weary because I went to go see Godzilla, and it feels for the first hour Godzilla's just a bit player. You don't see him; he's not there. And the second hour is a little bit more redeeming, but at that point I was just a little tired. One of the problems that we didn't really get to, and I don't want to delve into too much, is this.
No, what is it?
The science behind some of what happened was not accurate, and it kind of
like
made
what?
me upset. For example, no, it's true. Okay, so for example, there's a train that falls into this lake or river, and what's his face, Ford Brody, is in the water. This train goes into the water, feet from him. He should be sucked underneath in the water with the pull of the train. And he's just bobbing along like a cork.
He did get away really fast, but I'm cool with it. Whatever.
We also have a very top-heavy creature that's walking around.
Right, yeah, you do have to take that with a grain of salt because we're watching a movie about two giant
But I think that goes
creatures.
along with the criticism. It takes itself so seriously. It tries to provide, there's this realism here.
Yeah.
That then you can start being like, okay, wait, that doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah.
That
Well,
doesn't make sense.
King Kong gets shot by a machine gun, he fucking falls off the building and dies. Godzilla gets shot by, a couple dozen machine guns.
Warheads.
Yeah, and a fucking atomic warhead.
Yeah, I mean, even after he fights with the Mutos, you don't even see any physical damage, really.
Yeah,
they
that's true.
Sink it there, I don't know.
I mean, he practically
them.
spoiler, he practically takes a nap. And then he's like, oh, fuck, man.
What happened last night?
Oh, shit, what happened? It's like the hangover. So he's like, oh, man, where's my phone? Shit, okay. I'm just gonna, no one's looking around, I'm just gonna sneak into the ocean.
Shame walk.
Thank you, Godzilla!
Well, but you guys did bring up good points. The art direction was really neat, especially the paratroopers. The paratrooping scene was visually stunning.
Wow. You're bringing out that visually stunning word.
I realized what I said.
Yeah, it's like
did
DVD
you say
covered.
what you would give this?
No, I didn't, and I'm still trying to decide. Wait to rent it because of the plot and what I said, but Andrew does bring up a really good point that
Thank you.
you're gonna miss a lot of detail if you don't see this in theaters. So...
But you just said it was terrible and weary.
Yeah. I gave it a wait to rent it, and
see
you're
it in the
about to
theater?
rate it higher than me.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoyed
No, we all
Towards the end.
we all said to see it. So
above all.
see it sometime. Make sure someone else pays for your ticket. Oh, wait, I did.
right.
Thank you, Andrew.
Twist your boyfriend's arm in the panic.